Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name is Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. You'll have to excuse my voice at the moment. I came down with COVID on Thursday. Dun dun dun. First time I've had it ever. Managed to escape it during the pandemic, which was jolly nice. But unfortunately I've come down with it now. So if there's lots of I'll try not to cough. But if there is a lot of pausing in this recording, that's only because I've had to cough at that point. I don't really like... I do watch these videos everywhere now, and they keep editing Eckhart Tolle. It's awful. So it's sort of jerky. They've sort of... Because he does sort of waffle a bit in between, but that's just part of the joy of the person that he is. And I sometimes take all the ers that I say out, but I don't take all of them because I don't think that's natural. But anyway, don't be started. Now, I was going to do today the Decumbiture chart for me falling ill, but I think that's going to have zero interest for anybody listening other than myself. So I thought it would be more important considering what is happening in the news at the moment and with things not feeling terribly kind. What I thought would be more appropriate today is to look at today's chart. Now, I've created the chart using the whole sign method. I've used today's date, which is Sunday the 25th of January 2026, and I've used the time of 12 p.m. UK time. And I've ordered the chart to start in the sign of Aries, which you wouldn't do at 12 o'clock, but it's just making it easier for you to understand where everything is. Now, today, the moon and Chiron are in the sign of Aries. And just looking at this chart, we can see clearly that only 5 signs of the zodiac have got planets in them, and it's an extremely one-sided chart, and there is nothing in the sign of Leo, nothing in the sign of Virgo, nothing in the sign of Libra, nothing in the sign of Scorpio, nothing in the sign of Saggitarius, and nothing in the sign of Capricorn. There is a massive stellium of planets in the sign of Aquarius. We've got Mars, Pluto, Sun, Mercury, and Venus. And so because the planets are going to travel astrological order, we've still got Mars has got to go over Pluto. It hasn't done that yet. So everything's the other side of Pluto, but Mars hasn't passed Pluto yet. Because as we speak today, Pluto is 3 degrees Aquarius and Mars is 1 degree. And then in a few days, weeks' time, so hold on, I'll give you the exact date, Mars will conjunct Pluto on the 28th, that's 3 days' time, and then it'll pass Pluto. So the thinking with planets passing over, literally pass over, but that's one way of expressing it, things that transit past is probably a better way of putting it, Pluto, is that those planets themselves are going to go to the depths of whatever it was that they were like. Now we have to remember the sign Aquarius is not a sign of fighting and smashing you in the face. Aquarius is about liberty, liberation, freedom, quirkiness, unity of humankind. It's not a vicious sign of the zodiac by any stretch of the imagination. Not to say that people that aren't Aquarius can't be nasty bastards, because any sign of the zodiac can be horrible. And I just want to say before we go any further, if there are any noises in the background, that's because I've had to leave the office door open at the moment. My husband's out and I'm homesick, and we have a rescue doggy, so she might tap in and out of. She's lying on the rug at the moment. I don't normally allow her in here when I'm doing recording, but everything's up in the air at the moment, what with me being sick. I'm very, very rarely ill. But anyway. So we have a stellium of planets in Aquarius. So Aquarius is the sign of humanity, and I don't know about you, but I'm definitely a human. I hope you are as well. So with these planets, so the Sun has already passed Pluto. Mercury's gone past there and Venus has gone past there, but Mars hasn't done it yet. So keep an eye out for the 28th, because when Mars conjuncts Pluto in Aquarius, there could be, I'm not saying there is, but there could be more protests about liberty and freedom, because it's in the sign of Aquarius, and Mars is an action, aggression and energy planet, and Pluto is about deep change and transformation. Now, even though those planets, the others, which is the Sun, Mercury and Venus, have already passed Pluto, according to this chart that I've created, they are still conjunct to Pluto because they're within orb. Yeah, so the Sun and Mercury and Venus and Mars are still conjuncting Pluto today. So that's the thing that is uppermost in people's minds that are following the news. And I'm not going to talk about the news because I'm not a news broadcaster, but in case you have been reading the news, it's uppermost in people's minds that freedom and humanity are important. Now, the other weird thing that is going on at the moment is there are 3 planets that are literally on the edge of just about to change sign. And I might have mentioned this before, but when planets are just about to change from one sign, they've been in for a long amount of time into another sign, they do spend a short amount of time in the next sign, and then they'll retrograde back into the preceding sign. So this sort of like, you know, when you go down to the water and you've seen people, you know, just dip a little toe in it to check what the temperature is. It's a little bit like what the planets do, obviously not literally. But this sort of idea that they're just going to have a little tip it, I don't feel like it, and then they go back. And that's what's happened with Neptune and Saturn. So Saturn briefly went into the sign of Aries on the 26th of May last year. It got as far as 1 degree and then retrograded back into Pisces. Neptune managed to make it into the sign of Aries, where it's going, and it did its first little sort of dip. What was that word I was going to use? No, little sort of dip. Was the 31st of March last year. It managed to get as far as 1 degree, 2 degree. Yeah, it got as far as 2 degrees and 11 minutes into the sign of Aries, and then that retrograded as well. So we've had a little precursor to what will happen or how it will be like for those 2 planets to change sign. Now, as I'm recording this today, Saturn and Neptune are conjunct in the sign of Pisces. Saturn's 28 degrees and 28 degrees and 1 minute. Neptune is 29 degrees and 58 minutes. And they are going to finally go into the sign of Pisces again later on. We're not there yet. So Saturn will go, I think Saturn does it first. Saturn goes into Aries on the 15th of February, and then Neptune precedes it by going on the 27th, so it's only 2 days away. And then Neptune's going to be stuck into the sign of Aries forever and a day. I don't think it retrogrades back. I think it goes back, this year it goes back, retrogrades back to 1 degree, but that's it. When Neptune finally goes over the wall into the sign of Aries, it is going to be different. Now, it's not perfectly astrologically correct to say that a transit is challenging in and of itself. It depends what other aspects it makes to other planets. And the outer planets at the moment are making friendly aspects to it. I barely said the word friendly there. Friendly aspects to each other. So like Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer and it's making a nice trine to Saturn because it's within orb. Neptune's making a sextile to Uranus and a sextile to Pluto, so they're fine, and they'll continue to be fine. So it's not as if they're making squares to each other. But I did see something interesting the other day. I can't remember who the astrologer was, and I apologise profusely if it was you. Planets don't have to be in a challenging aspect to each other for weird stuff to go on with us on Earth. So it isn't necessarily the case that oppositions or squares or whatever are challenging and sextiles and trines are friendly. It isn't that. It's because Neptune and Saturn are going to go into fire. It's going to speed them up. And Uranus, which is now 27 degrees into the sign of Taurus, 27 degrees and 29 minutes retrograde, that's going to go into Gemini. And that's an air sign. So we're going to have the outer planets in fire and air. And anybody that's ever built a bonfire, if you've got plenty of fire and air, your bonfire's going to burn really well. Now, since I haven't ever lived through these transits, I can't speak from personal experience of how it's going to be. I have absolutely no idea. But I do know about the elements, and Aries is about me and mine. It's an ownership sign. It's a brave sign. It'll get out there and do stuff that other signs of the zodiac won't. It's cardinal, it's forward focused, it's not going to be talking about yesterday. All that lovely time of Neptune in the sign of Pisces, I did do a podcast on it because I'd read this article this guy had written about the last time Neptune was in Pisces, beards for men was fashionable. And it was almost like somebody flicked a switch. That the minute that Neptune went into Pisces, all of a sudden, boom, men started growing facial hair. And it really was, for young men especially, quite the fashionable thing. And this guy that had written the article was writing about that. It's still the case. Beards are still, as we speak at the moment. And I'm curious to see whether or not that changes when Neptune goes into Aries. So we have a stellium of planets in Aquarius, freedom. We've got 2 planets still in the sign of Pisces, compassion. We've got the moon and Chiron in Aries, ouch, because Chiron is the wounded healer and the moon is how we feel. And we've got Uranus retrograding in Taurus, and that comes out of retrograde on the 1st of February. And then we'll finally go into Gemini again for a long amount of time on the 27th of April, and that's when things are going to speed up even more. So Uranus wasn't particularly happy in the sign of Taurus. In fact, it was very unhappy. It's an earth sign, and earth signs don't like sudden happenings. Going into Gemini, it loves it. So, and we've got lots of history to prove this, that when Uranus is in the sign of Gemini, it loves being in that sign, and it's bing, bang, bong, new stuff, la, 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 and no concentration, and ping, pong, ping, pong, ping. And Uranus is the modern ruler to the sign of Aquarius, goes into Gemini, which is the sign of the zodiac of communication. Anything to do with AI obviously is going to speed up even more, but you sort of wonder how long it takes before what's going on in certain countries in the world, it comes to an enormous crunch. Will those things crunch? I don't know. We shall see. Now, the only sort of thing that's sort of, in a sense, holding things together is Jupiter's in the sign of Cancer. It's retrograding, so we've got 2 planets retrograding, Uranus and Jupiter. It's part of this signature of planets that are on one side of the circle. So we've got Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, nothing in Gemini, and we've got Jupiter in Cancer as we speak today. And Cancer's the sign of family, and Jupiter's the sign of learning, and retrograding is like, are we unlearning what family is? Are we having to reaffirm what family means? Do people need to be, certain people I can think of, need to be taught what family and community are? And we've got until the 11th of March before that goes comes out of retrograde and goes direct. I'm not particularly looking forward to when Jupiter goes into Leo, because when we're going to have some more fire adding to everything, and that there won't be anything left that's in water signs until we get to the sun being in Cancer, and we're going to lack Earth as well. So I would place a bet that over the next few years, the Earth as a resource is going to be completely forgotten about. Maybe all the emphasis with Pluto being in Aquarius, and there is a bunch of them there, but they're going to shift, so they're going to go into Pisces. We are going to have this, what I'm talking about, we're going to have the sun going to go into Pisces and Venus and Mars, so that's a water sign. So the sun is obviously going to transit through those signs, but the big ones, they're going to be in fire, and everything's going to be in fire and air, and it's like, the only thing that's going to hold us all together is the moon changing sign every couple of days, and the speedier planets. But the outers, which are generational planets, are not going to want anything to be slow. And I think when Jupiter goes into Leo, somebody in another country has a Leo ascendant, it's going to make them worse. And also when Uranus changes sign into their sign of the zodiac, which is Gemini, it's going to make them even worse for the irrational and unpredictable, and that's how they like it. So, which is not nice for others. But as the planets stand today, and will be for a few more days, because the moon's got to go through Taurus, got to go through Gemini, got to go through Cancer, which is approximately 2, 4, 6 days before anything goes into Leo and unbalances this one-sided chart. Everything is going to be very one-sided, and I've talked about indigos before, so they're people that all their planets are on one side of the circle. Nothing wrong with that. There's heaps of people that are born like that. But interestingly, when the indigos were born, which was during 79 to 99, there was more of a unity within those age groups, which seems to have dissipated a bit now, but maybe that'll be reinvigorated by this one-sided look of how things are at the moment. And one-sided charts don't last forever, because the moon, it's amazing the amount of indigos that I've read for, and they don't have their moon on the same side of the zodiac as they've got all their other planets. Sorry, they do have their moon on the same side of the zodiac as they've got all their other planets, which I was like, why did they decide to be born with the moon in their cluster or their stellium? Why didn't they wait a little bit longer till the moon was in opposition, which a lot of them haven't got? But remembering what the motifs to indigo is: born into the world with a sense of knowing, not liking to be told what to do, and wanting to come into the world with a sense of purpose, that it isn't sufficient just to have a job. And we also have to, when we're considering political things and things going on in the world, we have to take into account the age of the people that are doing the running of the countries and stuff, because their outer planets are always going to be in different signs to the general population of people that are more fit and young and able to possibly do something or not do something. And so there's going to be disagreements always with generations and leaders about what should or shouldn't be done, because their outer planets are telling different stories. So today, I apologise, it's not a long episode, but I did want to just run past with you today where the planets are at the moment, and I'm sending lots of hugs and care and stuff to people that are in countries. There's more than one that are under super amounts of stress at the moment, and I don't think there's too many countries that are escaping from it. And my question is, like, how much is that affecting people on the ground in their daily lives? Do we need to be reading the news every second of the day? Do we want the updates for it? Because actually they're not so helpful. They don't make us feel better or empowered. But hey, that is unfortunately what happens. Hopefully by next week, the COVID that I have is I've recovered from it. The cough's awful. It's just like the worst cough I've ever had in my whole life. I coughed so much this morning. I swear if I'd had breakfast, which luckily I hadn't, my breakfast wouldn't have stayed down. The cough was violent. And it's like this sort of tickle of the stuff that's in my nose was tickle. Oh, goodness. So I sympathise with anybody that's had COVID. And I say up until now I hadn't. So, well, there we go. So I hope you have a fab week. Obviously, while this is going on for me, I'm only working online. I do offer face-to-face sessions, which clients are taking advantage of, but there won't be any of those for the next week or so until I'm in the clear and I've done another test to prove that I'm not infectious or infected. And I'm happy to discuss anything with you. If you want to send me an email, you've got a question about astrology, how does this work, how does the other work, then do get in contact. And if you haven't already subscribed to the Astrological Association online library, I do recommend you do, because we've got some fabulous books on there, and I must do another episode on the wonderful books that we have there. So I'm just going to waffle now. So I hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye bye now.